Hey guys, Saiyan here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video. And so everyone has been talking about the Saiyan Saga for the last couple of days. Legends obviously made the interesting decision to have part 2 of the 7th anniversary be focused on Saiyan Saga. I saw some people commenting with like the new units are like Vegeta, Nappa, Tien. You guys know, I'm going to say straight away, right, I don't follow Legends that closely. I just see stuff that other people tweet. This isn't a video about Legends. It is mostly focused on Dokkan, but it is kind of also about the Saiyan Saga in general. What hype is, I guess, in the community for these kind of games. And just a little bit of commentary on what's been going on. If you've watched the videos put out by Truth or by Minato, although yesterday we did have a funny, Minato put out this video essentially in response to Truth, and then put out a video where the audio was muted the entire time, and then had to redo the video, which was pretty funny. Made for some good Twitter moments, but yeah, been a lot of discussion going back and forth. My boy Vector, who is a big fan of all the OG Dragon Ball and early Dragon Ball stuff, getting involved as well. And so I thought it'd be interesting to just sort of comment a little bit as well, my thoughts on everything that is going on. Some of the points might be the same ones made by some of these other guys, because let's be honest, this isn't a new conversation and this isn't something brand new or groundbreaking when it comes to talking about earlier moments in Dragon Ball and then hype when it comes to certain games, certain character releases and stuff like that. So I guess let's start off right at the beginning. I know this is similar to what Truth said in his video, right? But I like OG Dragon Ball Saga. I like the Saiyan Saga. I like the Namek Saga. I like Dragon Ball. Right? I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I have Dragon Ball tattoos. I'm in my, even as I get older, I'm still in my, I love nothing but just wearing comfortable clothes like shorts and t-shirt, unless I'm going somewhere smart. And I have plenty of Dragon Ball t-shirts, as I've got Dragon Ball tattoos, like, I love Dragon Ball, obviously. So there's not really any one major part of Dragon Ball that I particularly don't like. And I've said many times before, when it comes to character releases in Dokkan specifically, the characters that are the ones that make me the most excited are either the ones that are very, very like visually impressive, like with their animations, very good, very strong characters. But the big thing for me is a lot of the time character choice, not specifically because of who the character is or which arc they're from, but what teams they're on. Because you guys know I love heroes, right? I'm kind of like the heroes guy in the community. I still try and keep the heroes team alive as much as possible. Although one of the reasons this video is going out today is because I already tried doing all of the attempts of the new DB Saga Great Ape stage with the heroes team, and it did not go well. We managed to do Shula and finally managed to do Demon King Piccolo, but heroes team is probably not gonna hang in them any longer until I guess we see what the EZAs are like for this year. But not to get sidetracked, the reason why I like heroes is because I've always been a big fan of like the what if characters, like if someone got this form they never actually got. I like the different transformations, and I like using teams in the game that have these transformations, and teams like Power Beyond Super Saiyan, and like Super Saiyan 3 is one of my favorite forms and stuff like that. So for me, I like to run these teams that have all these crazy types of characters on it. So when they release like, even a Kid Goku, and Kid Goku's a great character. OG Dragon Ball's great. If you're still one of these people like me that grew up with Z, but you haven't ever gone back and watched OG Dragon Ball, it's worth checking it out, right, to see where the story started. Like, Kid Goku's a great character, but I know straight away that for me, when it comes to teams that I like to run, unless it's something like a Pure Saiyan or a Goku family team, that Kid Goku is not fitting on the teams that I like. So when it comes to the most recent releases, and we have things like Tao and Tien and stuff like that, they're not characters that go on the teams that I primarily like to use. Now, Saiyan Saga is a little bit different because obviously Goku and Vegeta are both pure Saiyans. And it's interesting because, like, if you go back to the mindset, again, of someone like me, especially that grew up with Z, like, the Saiyan Saga, especially the whole Goku and Vegeta fight, was awesome. And, like, the beam struggle, like, the beam clash. I mean, beam clashes went on to be a thing that people really liked in all the Dragon Ball fighting games and other fighting games that sort of had a similar sort of style, like, because the beam clash thing was so cool. And it's one of those things like anime, I guess as people grow up nowadays as well, people shorter attention spans, the TikTok generation, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to sound like a true unk over here, but like people like the flashy stuff, right? Kaioken was super cool. The beam struggle was awesome, right? But there is that aspect as well. Like, people always love fights like Goku versus Cell, Super Saiyan 2 Goku versus Majin Vegeta. Like, Dragon Ball is always also very good when it has really cool fight choreography. The fights where people are just throwing, like, big key balls at each other are not as exciting or as interesting, right? So Saiyan Saga has a lot of super cool stuff. I mentioned our boy Vector, like, posted this tweet. This was in response to somebody saying that, like, the Kaioken versus Vegeta beam struggle is like sleepy hype. Shout out to Iron Kane. So we got this like if you think this post is hype. And considering Vector doesn't have a massive following, like not as a negative to him, obviously he's doing well, but a good amount of likes and retweets on this because like this is just awesome. This is the frame after as well. Like somebody else did post the panels before this, but this is after like a good few panels of Goku actually managing to put the hands on Vegeta a little bit, and then Vegeta realizes like he's bleeding from the mouth a little bit and is like, oh man, like how dare this low class scum like make me bleed. Like I'm just done with this fight now. I don't care about beating up, like actually beating down Goku with my fists. I am literally now just going to blow up the planet because F this guy, right? So he literally flies up into the air and is like, yeah, you're never going to block this. Prepare to die with this world you love. And so he charges up the Gallic gun and Goku charges up the Kamehameha. And we get this beam struggle that, you know, as we've been following along with this clash, it's not just the case. The stakes are super high. It's not just the case that we know that if Goku, especially because we know no one else is going to be able to handle it. I mean, almost everyone else is dead at this point, to be fair. If Goku can't beat Vegeta, then the Earth is going to be conquered. So the stakes are already high. But at this point, with how the fight's been going, it's very much a case of, oh damn, like if Goku can't fight back against this, like in this beam clash, the Earth is going to be destroyed and everyone is going to die. So this is like big stakes, and like this is an awesome part of the fight. It's an awesome part of the saga, and this is the big thing, and this is kind of what Truth focused in on his video, is a lot of people that say stuff like OG Dragon Ball or Saiyan Saga isn't hype for a release in Dokkan or Legends or something like that. It's not the same thing as saying that the Saiyan Saga isn't good, or that the Saiyan Saga isn't like a hype anime, like a hype entertainment, something that you can rewatch even now and is still super cool. The big thing is just the fact that this is a gacha game at the end of the day, and they have to go on, I say have to, because, you know, we get these filler celebration releases like we have now, like Tau and Tien, and I guess we'll see later when we see like all the different statistics how well this celebration did compared to others. I do like that they give representation to the older stuff. But when it comes to like the big hype things, and like Saiyan Saga, especially Legends, it's part of their anniversary. A lot of people still speculating about what the theme is going to be for the Global Dokkan campaign. Like Saiyan Saga is not something that is up there in the levels of hype when it comes to what people want to summon for in a gacha game, right? I did the video the other day when we saw that 10-year roadmap about, like, you know, the question that always used to be, and someone did point out in the comments, it's not so much nowadays because we don't get them released as often as a certain period a few years ago, but when people always used to say, like, why do we always get fusions for these big celebrations? And then you see the 10-year breakdown and it's like the fusions are like the most used characters across the history of the game because they are the ones that people are the most excited for. And as I said, even for me, someone growing up with Z, like seeing the movies for the first time when I was finally able to get hold of like copies of them or see weird versions of them on YouTube, like, and seeing some of these new characters, and then the fact that Super Gogeta ended up being one of the most hype, like, aura characters in the show. People loved the fact that he would be put into like the fighting games and the early fighting games and stuff like that, when he literally is at the end of one movie for like 3 minutes. But because he's just so goddamn cool, and that whole scene is so like dripping with like style and like just like, yeah, he's the guy kind of thing, those characters are super popular. And the thing is, Minato made a really interesting point the other day with this tweet. from, this was like, what, 3 days ago? So keep in mind that Dragon Ball Super started airing 10 years ago. 10-year-old, I like the example of little Timmy, but 10-year-old Timmy, who grew up with Dragon Ball Saga airing as his primary start into Dragon Ball, is now in his 20s with a job and bills, and this makes up a very large chunk of the main demographic targeted with gacha games specifically. There's a very clear reason why Dokkan and Legends love to spam Universe Survival Saga and Future Saga over even Saiyan, Namek and Cell sagas. And this is very true, right? Gacha games are targeting a specific market. They want to make a certain amount of money. We've had this discussion over the years before that while free-to-play players are important for a game, because essentially it's like free advertising with word of mouth. Like, I was told about Dokkan by someone who was free to play, and now if you think about the years that I've spent playing the game and making content, spent so much money on this game because of someone who was free to play who told me about it. But the gacha games are trying to target money specifically, and when you think about it now, this person in the example, like 20-year-old not so little anymore Timmy, who plays Dokkan and has a bit of money to spend here and there, when he loads up the game, and this is the exact example Truth said, so I'm kind of paraphrasing him word for word, but like, as in not using his exact words, but when someone like this opens up Dokkan and it's like the new release for this week is TN, like, this person barely even knows who TN is. And even if you, like I say, someone like me who grew up watching Z, TN is someone who never really did that much. He has some cool moments, like he tries his best against Nappa. There's the cool like repeated tri-beam against Cell, although it doesn't really, you know, end up achieving anything. Like this person, or someone who is primarily focused on Z or grew up with Z, like this person doesn't care about TN. So whilst that's a bit of a difference with OG Dragon Ball Saga, when it comes to the Saiyan Saga as well specifically, this was the main point that Truth was talking about, is transformations make such a big deal. Like, the beam clash we mentioned is iconic, and people even outside of anime, outside of Dragon Ball, like, will know sort of memes or references to like the beam clash and stuff like that. But the most hype thing, the most recognizable thing that gets referenced in media outside of Dragon Ball, outside of even anime, there are people on this planet right now who have no idea what anime really even is, don't know what Dragon Ball is, but to at least some degree understand the concept of like what going Super Saiyan is, right? And that's because that's where things started to really pick up and get really flashy and really hype and over the top with the visuals when it comes to the transformations. And that's why that kind of stuff is the most popular in the game. It triggers those endorphins, right? All the crazy bright animations and flashing colors, people transforming and hair changes and all this kind of stuff. And that's why that stuff is super popular and gets a lot of the hype and gets a lot of the focus. Which again, to like circle back around, it's not to say that the Saiyan Saga isn't like peak content. Like, I could re-watch this whole Goku versus Vegeta fight and still love it even now. But when it comes to a big release in a gacha game, it's not quite the same thing, right? Because if we take a look over here, let's get the actual full wiki view. There we go. When we look at the Saiyan Saga, the other big problem with it is how limited we are for characters. Because again, if you're a fan of OG Dragon Ball Saga, like all of the Z fighters, I mean, maybe even not so much Chaozu. I don't actually know even a lot of OG. I don't know many people who really love Chaozu as a character. Maybe if you really are embedded with OG Dragon Ball, but like a lot of the characters on the Saiyan Saga are the characters that people don't really care about, like Tien, Yamcha, Krillin not so much, but like Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, Yajirobe, like these are characters that people don't really care about that much overall. I don't mean like everybody, of course, but people who grew up with Z, because remember, if you grew up with Z like I did, like, you don't know who these characters are, and you don't get a lot of their, well, really any backstory for them. Like, you know that Goku's the main guy, and in his absence after dying to Raditz, these guys are trying their best to train ready for the Saiyans to arrive, and then the Saiyans arrive and just start slapping them around all over the place. And then from that point onwards in Z, like, they are just irrelevant for the most part, right? So if you grew up with Z, you don't know much about these characters, and then you never really get given a reason to be invested in them or to be super hyped about them. So when it comes to Saiyan Saga, the recognizable big main characters are obviously just Goku and Vegeta. Krillin to a certain extent. Raditz obviously is, you know, a bit of a joke. Like, I always liked Raditz's design. When we very first saw Raditz, I always thought he looked cool. I thought his hairstyle was cool. I mean, I do like Super Saiyan 3 as one of my favourite forms. But Dokkan's never really done a huge amount with Raditz, or done much very well. Nappa is an okay character as well, but again, he's not like a hype celebration leading character. So Saiyan Saga, like, has potential for a celebration, but when you think about something big like the Global Dokkan campaign and how many new units we get in a celebration like that, like, what are we really getting? Because it's going to be like a Kaioken Goku, I guess, or a base Goku that transforms into Kaioken would be pretty cool. And then a Gallic Gun, like a proper Dokkan Fest version of like Gallic Gun Vegeta would be pretty cool. But is that hype enough for like a big massive celebration for the year? For a lot of people, not really. And again, like, it's something Truth Goes On talks about in his video when he looks over some comments. You know, a lot of us that did grow up with Z or have watched OG Dragon Ball and just appreciate Dragon Ball as a whole, it's very easy to fall into that mindset of just being like, oh, well, if a bunch of the player base don't think that the Saiyan Saga is hype, then they're not real Dragon Ball fans, or like they don't really understand like peak content and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, as Truth also says in his video, I don't like to be gatekeepy about that kind of stuff. Like, I grew up with Z, and it took me a long time to watch OG Dragon Ball, because at first I didn't even know it existed, because it didn't show over here in the UK anywhere at all. I'd seen, like, all of Z before I really even knew that much about OG Dragon Ball. But at the end of the day, everyone's part of the community, but when it comes to the games specifically, especially gacha games, that their whole point is to try and make the most money, because that's all they want to do really, is make money. If the game starts not making enough money, the game goes away, right? And so for the people, the target market for these games, they are some of these people that, you know, if you're a long time fan, you might think are, you know, not quote unquote not real fans if they don't respect like the Saiyan Saga, but those are the people that are spending money on the game. Those are the people that these big celebrations need to appeal to. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. It's one of those things, I can see good points being made on all sides, but I think the main takeaways of this that everyone has to be clear on is that when people say that certain releases aren't hype in a gacha game specifically, right, like Dokkan and Legends, they're not saying that those characters or those arcs of Dragon Ball are not good. It's just one of those, like, what is the peak hype for the game, what's going to make the most money, and those are the things that they kind of need to focus on for these big celebrations. I've always been a fan of them doing a kind of a mix. Like, one of the ideas that's been floating around recently, which I do quite like, for Global Dokkan campaign, if it's not going to be Daima, because that's the big one everyone's talking about, is the whole Goku versus Frieza concept, where it's like Saiyan Namek Saga Goku versus Frieza, and then Resurrection F Goku versus Frieza. I think that's kind of cool, because it's a bit of the old with the new, but like, you know, there'll be people even listening to this right now. There's plenty of people that don't think that that is hype either, right? So hype is very subjective, and I think that's the big thing that everyone has to remember, that I've mentioned. I'm pretty sure I've had that exact, like, back and forth. I don't want to say argument, because obviously I'm cool with Vector. He's a cool, chill guy. But I'm sure I've had that exact back and forth with him before, is a lot of people will say, like, you know, oh, no, you're wrong, where this thing is hype. And it's like, well, hype is subjective. Like, something is hype for somebody and not hype for somebody else. And it doesn't, you can't force something to be hype for someone else if it just isn't, right? So that's the big thing. This isn't the be all and end all. There are plenty of people that would love a Saiyan Saga themed like Global Dokkan campaign, especially if it was done correctly. Like I say, if the units are all good, by the end of the saga we've got, whether it's the celebration, whether it's the Saiyan Saga team, whether it's Earthbred Fighters, whatever it is, as long as we've got solid teams that by the end of the celebration we've now got a good, at least one, hopefully two if it's a big celebration like this, because both the headliners should have fairly different leader skills, two very good meta relevant teams, and the units are good, the animations are good, like that, those new teams are like beating all the content and stuff, like that kind of thing is good for the game. But is it the most exciting thing? And for a lot of people the answer is just no. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I hope I tried to make this my points as clear as I could whilst trying to cover all the bases, because I know when it comes to something like this, because hype is subjective, like, not everyone is going to agree, right? Some people will love a Saiyan Saga celebration, some people would hate it and skip it, other people would be indifferent. Like, it's kind of all over the place. And even the things that we say, like, the game may consider more hype, like fusions, there are some people that don't care about that stuff as much and want to see older stuff. Whereas on the whole, usually the newer, flashier stuff is the stuff that, you know, makes the most money. And at the end of the day, that is what these games are going to focus on. And I mean, even me, like, when it comes to games like things like Kakarot coming out and stuff like that, it's been a chief complaint for years. I guess any anime games and stuff, really, where it's like a new Dragon Ball game comes out, you start it up for the first time and it's like, okay, so basically all this game has really as a story mode is I'm just starting again from the beginning and playing all the story that I already know again. Like Xenoverse, obviously that they made changes with the timeline stuff, but like Xenoverse 1, Xenoverse 2, Kakarot, like all these Dragon Ball games that come out and it's like, okay, so I'm just playing the same story again. And the early stuff, it just is not as exciting unless they do throw in crazy things like Xenoverse with the timeline and forms and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't want to ramble too much at the end because we want to wrap it up, but let me know what you guys think. Like, would a Saiyan Saga Global Dokkan campaign be hype for you as long as it was executed well? Because obviously that is the other thing. Like, even if they do pick a hype character, loads of people wanted that Blue Kaioken versus Hit Goku. Blue Kaioken Goku versus Hit for a long time, but they fumbled Kaioken Goku, so a lot of people were really disappointed. So even if they do make a celebration that is something that they think is more hype than Saiyan Saga, like Super Saiyan 4s or Fusions, if the characters are not good, then that celebration is going to be disappointing for the community as well. So let me know what you guys think. I mean, I would rather have a Saiyan Saga celebration that was executed really well, where the units are really good, than have even like a Heroes celebration where the units are all bad, which obviously with Heroes being hit and miss, very often, even as a Heroes fan, the Heroes celebration ended up being kind of disappointing. So hopefully you guys know what I mean. But yeah, I won't go on any longer here. Let me know what you guys think. Is Saiyan Saga hype for you? Let me know. And there is no right or wrong answer. If it is for you, it is. If it isn't for you, then it isn't. And that's just how it is. But when it comes to these games, they're always going to try and make the most money. So they're always going to put the most flashy, exciting things as the big headliner celebrations. And then, you know, we just have to see how it goes from there. But let me know all your thoughts on this topic. What do you want to see for Global Dokkan campaign? Let me know down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.